Welcome to the channel. I am excited to have today's guest, Brian Winum. Funny story with Brian is he's been a customer of Legit's for some time, and I only realized it when I was at an event. I knew about Brian and I knew about the customer. I never made the connection that they were the same person until I was at an event and he mentioned the name of his business in the presentation that he did. And I was like, holy crap. And like, I messaged our team on Slack what was going on and said, one of our biggest customers is like talking right now. So I never made that connection. And I just found that very amusing at the time. But Brian has some great stuff he's going to talk to us about. And as usual, the best part about having great guests like Brian is it means less work for me to do, which is really my goal in anything, is to do as little as possible and get the maximum amount of gains. So Brian, how's it going?
Excellent. Thanks for having me on. Happy to take steal the show from you and, take the workload from you.
It's not hard to do. I'm not very entertaining. So thank you. But you've done a lot. So can you maybe just tell us your origin story and then how you got into it and then what you're doing now and just kind of introduce yourself that way?
Yeah, 100%. So my name is Brian Winum. I am an agency owner, an agency partner. I've been doing this since 2000. Our company's been in business since 2007 or so. I've been doing this for 20 plus years at this point. I originally got my start right out of college in the insurance industry. And that's what I did for years and years and years, to the point where I owned my own commercial insurance agency. Ended up getting rid of that 2004, 2005, around there. And had a no-compete clause, so kind of had to figure out what to do from there. My background was in computer science and marketing. I had always done my own websites, had done some affiliate marketing on the side at that point. Used to do, build HTML websites to promote credit card offers and things like that, and would randomly get like $50 checks in the mail every once in a while. So that got me hooked early. But I did have I needed a job, needed things to do, didn't have my agency anymore. So I went to work with some friends who owned some directories online, helped them build that up, then met my existing partners in their agency. They brought me in as a business development specialist, and eventually onboarded as a full partner. Been there ever since. So we have two agencies right now. We have Maxburst Web Design and MAXPlaces Marketing. And like I said, we've been around since about 2007 or so. No real specialties. We do a lot of e-commerce, national, not too much local, but we have our hands in everything. And I do a lot of affiliate stuff on the side as well, too, outside of the agency.
So what, if you don't mind me asking, why separate it into two agencies like that?
Just for branding purposes. We wanted people who were coming in for, strictly web design stuff, and they didn't want to even deal with any of the other stuff. And then we had other people who were already had a website, didn't need that end of it, and wanted to come in for, just the marketing end of things. So it just helped us kind of segment a little bit when we're doing our marketing campaigns, ranking for the individual keywords and stuff like that. Same ownership, same employees, everything else for the most part.
Okay, so it's like
branded, but
yeah, it's not even technically like separate businesses. It's just like separate brands.
Exactly, correct. Yep,
makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
And you said you don't, since you don't focus on a particular thing. How do you go about finding your business?
So most of it comes in from the web design end of things. That's where most of the business is going to come in. We get a lot of stuff coming in. We are Shopify partners, so we get a lot of e-com stuff coming in. They refer a lot of business to us. We've done a lot of partnership marketing, where we've developed relationships with other agency owners who maybe don't handle e-commerce type stuff or don't handle the marketing end of things, that are going to be referring business to us. We've been around forever, so we have a lot of search volume coming from the New York City area and things like that. We're actually on Long Island, New York, and we do have an office in New York City. So we get a lot of traffic coming in from there. And I guess a couple niches that we've fallen into kind of be more like the manufacturing end of things for one reason or another, and the aviation end of things. Our Long Island office is right near a local airport and a lot of aeronautical companies.
Oh,
so we've gotten a lot of that type of stuff. A lot of white collar stuff. And anything that's local is kind of more multi-location type stuff. And then we have some little things here and there, that we've had clients forever that have been with us, so that we do have some mom and pop things here and there, but not too much of that stuff.
Okay. You say you do some affiliate outside of that, right?
Yep. Yeah, I do a lot of that. Like I said, I've been doing that even before I did the agency stuff. Started building, HTML sites with front page back in the day for all sorts of stuff. Just about any niche you can think of, I dabble in it at one point or another. And it's several techniques over the years.
It's funny that you mentioned front page, because 2 days ago I had Brian Cato on, and he mentioned using Dreamweaver, and then the week before that I had Derek Pearson. He mentioned Dreamweaver. So this has got to be like the most that old school HTML builders have been mentioned on SEO in forever, basically. For those of you under the age of 35, just go Google it and figure out what we're talking about.
Exactly.
So so for your affiliate, do you do like affiliate sites, like just, product review, whatever?
So a little bit of everything. I guess kind of what I'm known for in the industry, were Google News sites, Google News networks, that type of stuff, where I built a lot of hybrid type networks, hybrid type directory type news sites that I was able to monetize with tons and tons of methods, whether it was display ads, product reviews, like you mentioned, guest posts, any type of monetization. I would just layer on top of it, whatever I could play around with it. Whatever's going to make me money, I'm willing to work with.
Yeah. I like we were talking about at the beginning, right?
Exactly.
And that was a great segue, because that led me into the next thing I wanted to ask you about. Is you mentioned that you're kind of known for Google News sites, and then with the presentation I saw that you give, there was, among other things, that was one of the things that you talked about. It was one of the parts that really I know this is going to sound like I'm just saying this because you're here, but yours was my favorite presentation at that thing. No offense to anybody else, I enjoyed most of it, but it was stuff that I could see me using more than some of the others. And the one that I really liked was what you talked about with the Google News sites. So can you just explain what a Google News site is, and then talk about as much as you want, or little, reveal only what you're comfortable with, but how you use them, and what, why people should use them, and so on.
So initially I started dabbling in Google News, 10, 12 years ago. It's been a while, but at that point, 2012, 2014, 2015, in that range, we were ranking everything with PBNs at that point. We had our own PBN network. But I'm always a big proponent of building out business assets, even something that they can spin as a separate asset from the agency. The agency is one asset, but I want to be able to, whether it's monetize my SOPs, my PBN network, whatever it is. So I wanted to kind of build a PBN network on steroids. They were kind of diminishing assets. If we were buying expired domains, eventually they lose power over time. The only way I'm really monetizing them was by helping to rank ourselves, rank our clients, and everything else. There really wasn't another avenue at that point that I was using them for. So I went with getting them approved for Google News, and building them up as news sites. At the time, there really was no information out there on even how to get approved for Google News. I think I found like one YouTube video, and I couldn't even understand the guy. It's such a heavy accent. So I ended up buying a couple sites and kind of reverse engineering what was working, submitting them and getting them approved. And at that point, I was kind of excited because message popped up. It's going to take 2 or 3 weeks to get approved from Google News. It was all manually reviewed at that point, and I was getting the approvals done in 7, 8 hours. So I thought I was really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But I got a process down pat, and it worked really well. So I had Google News sites. They were approved. It was really helpful as far as indexing back then. I could push a button, publish an article, and literally in a matter of minutes would be indexed within Google. So that was a really, really big win for us in getting all our backlinks indexed. If we wanted to publish like press releases or something on there across our network, we get that indexed immediately. So it was super helpful with that. So if we can get that stuff indexed, we were figuring, why can't we go get some affiliate stuff indexed as well if we're doing product roundups? Because I was noticing that anything and everything we published to Google News was getting indexed, even things like policy pages and the evergreen pages, not just the news posts. So they were pulling everything in. So we figured, okay, let's put out these articles. Let's monetize them with AdSense or display ads. Let's do some roundup articles, product review articles. And little by little, they started making money and growing. And we just started to kind of layer techniques and strategies on top of that to kind of really power it up over time. And I think maybe the first time I kind of shared in public what I was doing was at an event that Stephen Kang threw in like 2019 in Vegas, where a bunch of people heard me speak about it. And things kind of really took off from there, where, some big names in the industry kind of took what I taught them at that event and then kind of ran with it. And then, I've been in touch with those people and everything else, and just kind of building up my strategies from there across the board for my affiliate sites, my own sites and everything else. I kind of created I guess, a framework. I call it the Authority Amplifier, Authority Stacking,
Okay.
where I'm able to kind of stack all these different techniques together to really kind of give Google the signals that it's looking for and kind of future-proof my sites. And it's worked well for me so far.
Awesome. Now, in case there's somebody that's watching that doesn't know, can you just kind of briefly explain what a Google News site is?
Sure. So a Google News site, it was a site that you would have to meet certain requirements and submit it through the Google Publisher Center. You would actually go in there, let Google know, what niche your site was in, obviously provide the URL, your news feed and everything else. And they would actually manually review it up until about 2019. They would go in there, look at and make sure everything was in place. It literally had to look the part of a news site. So you had to have some sort of authorship in place. It had to be a newsy looking site, whether it was like a magazine theme or a news type theme. You had to have specific policies in place that Google was looking for, like a privacy policy, a contact page, and things like that. So you had to kind of be upfront and look the part of really being a news site. And they would even give me feedback when I was submitting these sites on little things here and there, like what exactly they were looking for. So it was super helpful to kind of get that feedback from them. Little things like they would tell me they would scan the site and make sure that it was at least 51% unique content. If it was below that threshold, they deny the site for Google News approval. So once these sites get approved, then they're eligible to appear in the Google News tab in your search, in the top stories, and news.google.com. And then if you were able to catch lightning in the bottle with a trending story, you could bring in a ton of traffic that way. So it's great for authority. It's a Google News approved property. It's been manually approved. You have the chance to appear within Google News, which has literally hundreds of millions of visitors per month. If you're in a trending topic, like I said, you can really catch lightning in the bottle and get a ton of traffic coming to your website. And it was just a super authoritative way of indexing your content easily and everything else. But it's a manually approved website that was eligible to appear in Google News. They switched it a little bit in 2019 where they opened it up to everyone, where theoretically every website can be crawled and eligible in Google News, but they still left the Google Publisher Center open where you could go in there and still manually request your sites to be reviewed and get approved in Google News. The sites that were approved after that point weren't nearly as powerful as the ones before. There was less of a manual approval process. It was more of kind of an automated scan where they would look for certain signals, certain things, and then you get the approval notice. And then just recently, up to about 3 weeks ago, they actually cut off the Publisher Center completely. There's no more manual submission for Google News approved sites. So everything is on the automated end of things.
Okay. So now, you don't have to go through the whole process, but so for now, there's just somewhere you have to go and ask them to review it. Is that how?
There was. Now they took that away. So now there's nothing you can do to manually ask them to review your site for Google News. You just have to set it up properly and kind of cross your fingers and hope you're going to get it. But to be honest, it hasn't really changed anything that I do or my outlook at anything with Google News. Kind of everything I did to get approved for Google News, I'm still doing, will still be doing in the future. Only because it is optimizing my site for possible Google News inclusion moving forward. They're going to be scanning my sites. You're still able to create a news XML sitemap feed that Google's going to crawl. So if you're publishing newsworthy content and using a news sitemap and XML feed, Google has the chance of pulling into Google News for you. And then there's the other benefits as well too that I'll get into a little bit. That kind of makes sense to still optimize for Google News, even though they shut down that manual approval process.
Okay. So how do you know when it happens? Do they email you, or how does it work?
They used to email you when you got approved and you didn't get approved. You'll get a notification. Now you have no idea. You're just going to have to keep track of it in in your analytics, your search console, and everything else, and kind of see.
So you won't know until you see some traffic come from it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
can go to same as you can with any Google search. You can go into the news.google and use the site search operator and see if your articles are appearing in there. So you can double check manually just to see what's being pulled in and see if they're actually indexing anything in Google News for you.
Okay. Well, that's really cool. So, and then you can just use those for anything, right? It's just a regular site, but has the ability to show in Google News.
Yeah, it's got that news component. Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned that it's part of your overall strategy with, I think you called it trust stacking. Is that what you called
it? Authority and trust stacking. Yep.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit about what that means?
Sure. So I basically want to bake all these signals I can into the website when I, from the ground up, when I first launched the site, that signal that trust and authority in Google's eyes. the things they're looking for in larger authority sites, for example. I want to have those features available on my site from day one. And some examples of that I just mentioned with the Google News approval. Like on my authorship would be crystal clear. I would have an author page or a team page, complete author bios, author images. My authors would be published elsewhere. Like, for example, my authors would have an ebook published on Amazon, for example, or they would be listed on the Google Scholar website. They might be guest post contributors on other third-party websites. You know, they might have a Medium blog, all their own social profiles, appear on different podcasts like this as well. And I would make sure all that was evident in Google's eyes. That, you know, these are people, these authors are active, you know, all across the internet, like an author should be. You know, like an active author is publishing their content, and trying to get some, you know, eyeballs on their content is going to be, you know, getting their name out there. So things like that, like that's one type of signal. The other signal is types of signals are, you know, making the site look the part. Like, for example, it has to look legitimate. I want to have a, you know, a nicely crafted logo. I mean, to the point where I'm taking cues from what Google is telling me specifically from all their different platforms. Like, this is one thing I've heard specifically from both the Google News support team and also from the GNB support team. They've told me that you're best served by having your actual business name be part of your logo itself. So the exact word for word, if that's on your logo, you're going to have a better chance of getting approved in Google News. And I've heard the same thing with GNBs. They've told me that. I've actually changed it and gotten things approved. So I just pay attention to all the little things that Google's looking for and just keep stacking them and just making sure that I'm tying everything together and giving Google everything it wants.
Okay. Now, you don't have to say the number, but I remember you talking about this at the event, and you talked about making a pretty good amount of money from Google News stuff. Can you just give us some perspective on how financially valuable this can be?
Yes, the one you probably stuck out in your mind isn't my site, but it's someone that I actually taught this to at that Stephen King event, and they kind of took my technique and ran with it. I'm still in touch with this person. We still chat back and forth and everything, but I have sites, I have people in my mastermind groups and things like that are making, you know, 5 figures, 6 figures, you know, on a monthly basis with these type of sites. But the one you're talking about in particular, the story that I told and kind of use as a shining example, is someone who built out an entire Google News network and was able to flip it for 8 figures. I mean, they were making, you know, $600,000-$700,000 a month in display ad income on their Google News network. And we're able to flip it for, you know, $20+ million over a course of 2 years to build it up and flip it at that point.
Wow, that's insane. And
then we were able to, and the same person and other people I know were able to kind of do that same thing. That was a network of literally thousands of sites, but we're kind of able to replicate the same effect with only one site. Where, you know, we have one site making 6 figures a month from display ad income, Amazon income, and everything else.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's a powerful way to do things. If you can give Google the signals they want, you're going to survive. You're going to survive these helpful content updates. You're going to survive any of these updates they throw at you. Like, for example, about a year ago at this point, maybe it was March of last year, Google News actually did a clean sweep. They went in there and kind of cleared out all the spam sites, or as many as they could. So I know people who literally lost thousands and thousands of Google News approved websites virtually overnight. They got wiped out because they were spammy. You know, they were using them for, you know, mass publishing purposes. There was no editorial oversight or anything like that. And they got completely wiped. Now, I've never lost a single website that's been approved. They've never taken any of them away from me. Only because, like I said, I pay attention to all the little things that Google is looking for, all the little signals, and just keep stacking them and building upon it. And I make sure that not only am I going after, you know, my search term related traffic that I want to get coming to the website, whether I'm trying to rank for affiliate terms or something related to my clients, whatever it may be, but I'm also taking the extra effort to make sure I get branded search to these websites, to make sure I get social traffic to these sites.
To your Google News sites.
Yeah, exactly. So my affiliate sites, my Google News sites, to make sure that they're mimicking the same thing that they'd be seeing from these huge news sites, from these huge authority sites. These are big brands. They have these social profiles, drive a ton of traffic. So I wanted to do the same thing on a smaller scale and just figure out a way to where I could do it, on the cheap because I'm cheap. So I had to figure out how to do that. And that's where some of my content strategies came into play.
Yeah. I don't want to, I'm just going to leave this. I'm just going to say something and everybody can go figure it out for themselves. But branded social traffic is one of the God hacks for SEO right now. So if you don't know what I mean by that, I'm not going to tell you, not you, but them, but go figure that out. And that will make a huge difference.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's the first thing I want to do when I'm launching these type of sites. And the way I've kind of structured my my strategies, it's kind of like I said, it's kind of like a framework. I can pick and choose what I want to use for any particular case. So the things I teach, the things I do, they are applicable to my affiliate night sites, my news sites, my client sites, my own agency sites, and things like that. So the techniques I pick and choose from, the signals that I'm sending to Google, I use across the board for anything and everything. I want to make sure everything's dialed in properly. I'm not leaving anything up to Google's imagination. Yeah. Like when I talked about the authors, how they have a published ebook, how they're on podcasts, how they're on, guest post authors on third-party sites and things like that. All that stuff is tied together via schema, so Google can find it and see everything, and kind of make that correlation between, all the different avenues that this author is published on or listed on or something like that.
It sounds like what you're talking about is what a lot of people in SEO call EAT, right? EEAT.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing. All my techniques are aimed at satisfying those requirements, just making sure that not only do I look the part, but I'm giving Google those signals they want. And I'm of the mind, like a lot of people, that like you were at the event where I did speak down in Miami, and I did talk about authority stacking, trust stacking, and kind of, if you remember, Clint Butler came out and told me one of the things I was talking about was kind of bullshit. That EAT isn't a ranking factor. And I kind of agree with him to some point, but like I said, these are all different signals that en masse help your site tremendously. Right. They help with conversions. They help with people staying on page. They help with that. Even the consumer trust. It's not necessarily Google trust. A lot of times it's even consumer trust. People are coming to the website. They want to trust the outlet. They're going to spend more time. They're going to click through, take the article seriously, click through the links to the affiliate products and everything else. So I want to establish Google trust, but I also want to establish consumer trust as well.
I think the important piece of what you just said there, for the people that don't think it works, is that you said it's multiple signals in together. I'm guessing the people that say that it doesn't matter are people that just went and made an author bio page on their site, didn't see any change, and assume that means the whole thing is bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
that's
it's everything, whether it's the way the website is built, the way the authorship is set up, the way the content is published, the types of traffic that are coming, the type of backlinks that are coming in. They all play a part in building up that that expertise, authority, and trust across the board for Google to take a peek at, and also for your website visitors to kind of notice as well.
Yeah, that's something it's a little off topic, but it's something I've been on the soapbox a lot about lately, is people writing off a technique because they use one thing out of the whole thing that works, tried it and it didn't do anything by itself, and then assume that doesn't matter or doesn't work. And I kind of think that's what, and not that I don't respect Clinton's opinion, but I kind of think that might be what people like that are thinking, is like they tried one piece of something without doing the other parts of it, and then they assume the whole thing is nonsense.
Yeah, people don't do their own testing as much as they should. And that's, like I said, I've been doing this, testing these different techniques on and off. I have dozens of websites that are strictly just for testing purposes, where I'm constantly testing these things, if not hundreds at this point. And like I said, I test it across the board, whether it's on, for my own site, for client sites, for affiliate site, for news sites. I see all the different niches that are working, all the different types of sites, whether it's an e-commerce site, whether it's a WordPress site, whatever it may be. So I'm getting the data I need to kind of solidify it in my mind and make sure that it works. And then I just build it into my stack moving forward.
Yeah. And sometimes one thing needs other things to happen for it to work, and it without those things doesn't work. So I think that's what a lot of people miss.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Let me see if anybody has any questions for Brian, or I guess for me, but mostly for Brian. Please put them in the chat or in the comments or whatever it is where you're watching. And just as a reminder, you're here with Brian Winum, he longtime SEO expert and great member of the community here. Now you have a program called Authority Amplifier, right?
Correct. Yep.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So this was a course I launched right around Black Friday of last year. That is a kind of a culmination of all my techniques and strategies and everything else that I talk about across, like I said, all different types of sites where I kind of teach people how to do what I do. What's worked for, getting me through the news sweep last year, getting me through the helpful content updates, recently, through all the Google updates, and kind of not only surviving but thriving through them without, losing steam on any of these websites. So I kind of put it out more as almost a kick in the ass to myself, just to kind of keep testing, keep pushing things out, almost a challenge to myself. Part of what I'm doing right now. I've kind of established all the techniques, the strategies, those videos. And I'm really starting to drip out all my test sites and things like that. Like I've started building them once I launch the course, and I'll be sharing these within the Facebook group itself, the private group, where I'll be sharing analytics, I'll be sharing monetization, the URLs and things like that. So people can really build along with me. People can see exactly what I'm doing, ask me any questions they want, and just kind of take a peek over the shoulders and building these different types of sites out, whether it's a directory type site, whether it's a news network, whether it's a large authority site, a really tiny niche authority site, whatever it may be. There's different types of sites that I've built out specifically that I'm sharing in there as well. So not only am I teaching you my theories, you're going through videos of everything that I teach, but also you're going to be able to see me share all this stuff, and I'll bring in guests and everything else as well too. So I really want it to be a community that people can learn from.
Yeah, that's very valuable. A lot of courses, they either don't have the community part or they don't show specific URLs or whatever, and it's just like a video series, which there's a place for that too. But I think that's really helpful, and it's very uncommon. I don't know how many courses you've been in, but it's a very uncommon approach.
Yeah, it is. So I wanted to kind of put it out there. I want to be upfront and open about some of these sites, whether they are winners or losers. People see how I do things all along. So like I said, I have about a handful of 5 or 6 sites that have already built out, already in production, are already at one point or another of the content publication stage, and just about getting ready to be shared. So I've kind of finished up all my speaking engagements and everything else, and really kind of ready to step up the game in this end of things.
Remind me to talk to you afterwards. You may not have finished up all your speaking engagements yet. Just kidding.
Okay.
But this is it, right? These are the different modules. This is a lot.
Yeah. So a little bit of everything. And like you said, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not just one little technique.
Right.
These things in total, when you stack them, and that's why I call it authority stacking or trust stacking. I'm stacking these things on top of each other and giving Google all the different signals that they're looking for. So for example, I'll give an easy example of a content, and I'll actually share a little nugget here.
Yeah.
So one of the techniques I've used successfully that's been super helpful throughout this helpful content update and everything else, and I've used this on not only my sites, but also my news sites and actual client sites. But I've kind of leveraged the power of Reddit and Facebook polls. And I know I talked about this a little bit at the SEO at the Beach down in Miami. I talked about it at spring training. But when I was going through the actual what it takes to be in Google News, their physical, their pages themselves, how they explain everything, kind of what goes into it, what the requirements are. 2 things they always talked about were prominence and authority. They literally mention these in the documents. So prominence and authority were the 2 things. So how can I kind of make myself authoritative and also make myself prominent? And going through the prominence end of things, they mention things specifically, like they talk about information gain. How can I make myself stand out from the crowd? What type of content am I going to bring that stands out from everyone else? With the world of AI now, everyone's kind of push button publishing everything. Mm-hmm. But more often than not, it's just a regurgitation of what's already out there, what these LLMs already know. So what am I going to add on top of that, layer on top of that, to kind of stand out from the crowd? What type of information, what types of facts and figures can I bring to the table that's going to make me stand over and above? So I've had great success using a certain type of survey poll post in Reddit. It's a native post type. You can post a multiple choice question. And there are community subreddits dedicated to strictly taking polls that have hundreds of thousands of members. So you can publish a quick survey and get instant feedback within a matter of hours. Like hundreds of people can be answering these questions. So you're getting legitimate feedback from real people on a particular topic. You're getting all the comments within the survey post itself too, as kind of an added bonus. So not only are you getting a legit survey, legit numbers, facts, and figures, you're getting kind of some expert contributions as well in the comments. So I'm able to kind of take that to AI, saying, run it right into ChatGPT, for example, say, hey, this was the question we asked. These were the survey results. What takeaways can we pull from the survey? And then I'll have the AI just spit out a bunch of takeaways and talking points that can be created based on those survey results. From there, use AI to generate an article outline from there. Again, then use AI to generate the actual article itself. AI did all the heavy lifting. All I did was post a survey in Reddit. AI is basically created the entire article around those survey results for me. And now I have a standalone article that's well written, that has actual data to back it up. I'm embedding the Reddit survey in the article itself, so Google can see that, hey, this is legitimate information is coming from one of the social channels. I'm getting social traffic back to my website from Reddit itself, or Facebook if I'm posting in a Facebook group or something like that. And it's kind of a double whammy. I'm getting social traffic, and I'm actually adding some information gain to these types of articles that I'm pushing out there, where I'm getting real informational sources to kind of back things up for me. So it's been super helpful.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Google absolutely loves Reddit more than they ever have. So that's another advantage to it. But like I said a little while ago, branded social traffic is like one of the most powerful things you can do right now. That's probably a great way to get it from their favorite site.
Well, one of the first things I did is kind of another technique that I always piggybacked with these type of things, was using the expert roundup type posts. Okay. And this is one of the first things I talked about at Stephen Kang's event, 5, 6, 7 years ago at this point, where I was using Harrow, kind of the reverse of how everyone else was doing it. Instead of actually going in there and trying to using it to build backlinks to my own properties, I was actually getting my sites approved as the news source. Then I was able to put out a query and have experts contribute to my articles. I could put out a query saying, hey, what are your top social media marketing tips for dentists in 2022, or whatever it may be, whenever I was publishing this query. And I'd get 30, 40, 50 different people sending me their tips and techniques and things like that. And literally all I had to do was copy and paste a listicle and instant article. I'd create a little intro, a little outro, and I had an entire article of unique content with unique tips and techniques and everything else, and all these third-party experts that I could link out to. Then these people would be sending me free backlinks. They'd be mentioning me in their press releases. They'd be putting me on there as seen in the press pages on their own websites and things like that. And when I was listed on Harrow, before they even submitted their answer to me, to my query, they'd be Googling my brand name just to kind of see what type of outlet it was. Yeah. So I'd be getting branded search traffic right out of the gate. I'd be getting these expert contributors who eventually down the road would turn into other guest post authors and maybe lead to other opportunities, or if they wanted to be listed on other sites of my network and things like that. So it opened up a whole world of different authors to me and different guest post opportunities and everything else. Plus I was getting free backlinks, free press, and getting that branded search traffic, which was huge. So I can get social traffic, I can get branded traffic, and then I'm building out my sites with SEO friendly content to get the regular search traffic coming in. So it's kind of the triple whammy. Get everything I want, give Google the signals.
I've been on the other end of that before. I've gotten asked to give quotes like that, and I've gotten links that for myself that way as for being quoted too. So it's interesting to see what the person on the other side of that was likely doing.
So I'll say most people have probably requested a guest post inclusion on one of my sites at one point or another. I've seen tons of names that I recognized. I didn't know they were submitting it to me specifically. It was under my author's name, sure, or the editor's name for the particular site that I was requesting for. But yeah, hundreds and hundreds of SEOs that I recognized through Facebook and everything else have requested links from my sites at one point or another. It's funny.
Yeah, I've gotten, like, when I get put in some of those, I would look through it once it got published and I'd recognize half the people in it. Yep. So I actually, like, I don't know if this is true, but like I got to the point where I felt like they weren't that effective as a backlink because there's so many people on doing the same ones. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It was better for me though, because I was
Yeah.
getting, like I said, I was getting the
Yeah.
traffic. I was getting the links and the press releases and everything else. And the other thing that I would get out of that was leads from my own agency. I'd be getting people submitting queries who are like CMOs or the marketing officers of, you know, Fortune 500 companies and, you know, big wigs from those different companies and things like that. So I'd be able to kind of connect with them and, you know, link up with them a little bit and talk to them about my other networks and make a kind of a warm referral for myself as the news outlet to myself as the agency who was helping to run that news outlet. Not that they knew that connection, but
Right.
I was giving myself a warm referral
I
to
think
someone
what
who
I
might
like
need SEO help.
about all of this is how everything you do has seemingly like layers to it. Like you don't just get one benefit from one thing. You get this and you get this and you get this and you get this. I think that's really I don't even know what to label that as. Diversification, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really important. It's something that a lot of SEOs aren't great at. Like they tend to have tunnel vision on one particular thing, or once they decide which tribe that they're in, that's the only thing that they do. So I think that's one of the reasons that this is so appealing to me is that it's very versatile because I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but I don't have time to dedicate to any one particular to something that's only going to get me one benefit, you know?
Yeah. And that was my whole goal when I was building. Like I said, I wanted to build these out as assets. So every little wrinkle I can layer on top of it is just going to make it more valuable to me or to someone else who may potentially want to buy it moving forward. Like I said, it's not necessarily relying on just one source of income or one source of content generation or something else. There's multiple things that they can fall back on. If one thing fails, there's something else that's going to keep it going. And like I said, that diversification thing has been key to what I'm doing. I've been trying to layer as many different types of these strategies in, and just make sure that I test them out, they work, and then I work them into the the overall big picture of what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Now, who is this course for? Is it do you have to have a certain knowledge, like what
It
level?
helps. It helps if you built out a small site here and there. You have some WordPress knowledge or something like that for sure. I'm not going to teach people how to build a site, how to put together a WordPress site or things like that.
Plenty of YouTube videos for that.
Yeah, exactly. You go out there and do that. There's plenty of other information you can look at. But if you kind of have the bare bones basics down, you've done it at some point or another, whether you're an agency owner, whether you're an affiliate or anything else, just something you're going to take out of this. Like I said, I use these techniques the techniques I teach in this course, I use to generate leads for ourselves, for our clients. I build out all different types of websites that I talk about in here, whether it's directory websites, entire news networks, individual news sites, focused authority websites, the smaller niche sites and things like that. So no matter what type of site you're working on, these techniques apply to it. You just pick and choose what makes sense for your particular situation.
Nice. Shannon says we can learn all this in the course. Yeah, It's got a lot of it's like pretty much everything we've talked about today. You can kind of see the different modules here, and I assume there's probably more that's not even on here. So
yep, there's always adding more to it.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at this list, that's a great deal. So check that out at authamp.com for those of you that are interested. I think it's well worth the tiny investment that's required. I'm sorry, I don't know what you're saying. If you can translate that for me, I'd be happy to answer it for it, but I don't have it. That I don't know what you said. You now for your sites, I think I know what the answer to this is based on other things you've said, but how much AI content do you use on your news sites, if any?
All of it is AI now, for the most
Really?
part.
That's surprising to me. But
yeah, with a human element, of course. But yeah, at this point, it's all generated via. I'm a big proponent of using like ZimWriter or Content Sprout or any of those types of content generation techniques. It allows me to push it, in mass and bulk, schedule everything out ahead of time. Obviously there's custom prompting that goes in, there's work that goes into it. I have to do the research for the topical maps and things like that, make sure everything's done properly. But the vast majority is done via AI at this point.
Okay. I really am surprised because I had a feeling you were talking so much about, authors and signals and stuff like that and the unique content. I was real surprised to get your answer there. So that's interesting to me.
Yep.
You mentioned ZimWriter
I want to make it easy.
You mentioned ZimWriter. Matt was actually on the channel a few weeks ago too.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, we just did actually a small private mastermind in out by him in Detroit over this past weekend.
oh,
So
okay.
it's just fun to sit down, talk with him, and excited to see what he's got in the roadmap moving forward. And he was super helpful with giving feedback on my, some of the things I'm doing, and some of the other members. We just did just kind of a little group roundtable on how we're using AI in our different workflows, on a day-by-day basis, things like this. And he was giving us feedback on how we could kind of use Zim to the best of our abilities to kind of take advantage of all that stuff, or if not Zim, something else that we could use. So he was super helpful like that. Great guy.
Yeah, he really is. What I like about him is that he's not like an Ahrefs or a SEMrush or something like that. He's just a guy that created a tool that he liked, and now he sells it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. He kind of fell into it.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't even have a background in SEO or anything like that. It's just he's created a great tool, and you're right, he is a really pleasant guy. So.
Yeah, from being a patent lawyer to
yeah,
ZimWriter. Here we go.
David asks, do you cover Zim workflows or topical mapping in the course?
So the topical mapping is in there already, kind of the ways I go about that. And the Zim workflows are definitely part of the over-the-shoulder stuff that I'm actually demonstrating with my new website build-outs and everything else for sure. So all that stuff will definitely be in there, no doubt.
Crafty Octopus says, you mentioned how you were able to leverage the use of AI, but are there any drawbacks too? I mean, that's a pretty popular question. Do you think there's downsides to AI content?
I mean, if you're just using straight AI content out of the box without any, thought or strategy to it, 100%, you can shoot yourself in the foot. I make sure that, like I said, all the keyword research is done ahead of time. There's a strategy to it. I am trying to kind of humanize it as best as possible. Part of one of the things that I had talked about, or that I had kind of taken out of that, when I was researching the Google News, when they mentioned prominence and authority, one of the things they specifically mentioned was opinion-based content is what they're looking for. So, and that's part of what we do with humanizing the AI content is, using the I, we, us type stuff instead of, having it appear as the typical AI generated, third-party overview of something else. I want to humanize it and make it personal. Right. So that's what I'm doing with my authorship and what my prompting with my AI content. I'm humanizing it, making it opinion-based, and it definitely helps. And then I'm layering in the other signals on top of it to protect myself, like social traffic coming back to it, branded traffic coming back to it, and everything else. So AI is a great tool if you use it properly.
Yeah. If you just copy and paste, you're going to get all that in today's competitive digital landscape bullshit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. None of that.
Yeah. It's also interesting that you mentioned that you humanize it by writing I and we. And I've noticed that I have something of a blog on my agency site, and most of it is, to be perfectly honest, is writers that I've hired that are good writers and stuff. But I've noticed that the ones that rank the best are the very few that I write myself.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I'm, and in my experience, I think that, what I mean, that I don't have enough data to say that that's true.
No, exactly what you just said. I've seen the same exact thing. I've seen that correlation 100% across the board in my experience, based on what I've seen,
Yep.
Things like that, they make a huge difference in humanizing it and making it. And Google literally said in their news overview that they want that opinion-based content. So if you're presenting things as opinion and not necessarily fact, but sprinkling in third-party verified facts, like I said, or third-party verified metrics and surveys and things like that, you're kind of giving it to go from both ends of the spectrum. You're giving it opinion-based stuff, but you're also basing it on facts as well too, giving it that factually dense content, but with a kind of the personalized spin on it.
I never thought of this before, but it's almost like when you were in college and you had to write a paper, because like they were big on making sure that you cited like good sources.
Yep.
But you also had to like give an original thought on the topic when you weren't going to get an A. So
exactly.
I always got in trouble, not in trouble, but the only thing I ever got points off for was that I didn't use enough sources. And I always thought, well,
right.
like, hey, why am I here to just repeat but now I'm out in the world, I kind of get it. But I've never thought of that before. But that's a lot like writing a college paper, if you think about it, just not as boring.
Exactly. And this makes me money. That cost me money.
Yeah, exactly. Costing me money even to this day.
Yeah, no kidding.
Gregory Ortiz says, what's up, guys? Loving this info. Brian is the man.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Love Greg. Great guy.
Me too. Randy, the news guy, says, how are your site build outs going to change now that Google has announced they're no longer approving new news sites?
Oh, Randy's late to the game. So I'm not changing anything. Not changing anything. So there is no manual submission like Randy mentioned. But everything I would do to get it approved for Google News anyway still makes sense for meeting those, authority and trust requirements to begin with. I want to optimize myself for Google News still, because there's a chance of automatic inclusion. But the things I'm doing to optimize for that, and I teach in my course, are helping us to optimize for Google News inclusion, for Google Discover inclusion, which can be a huge traffic hammer for us, for the Google Top Stories, for all the different Google platforms. So everything I was doing previously, nothing's really changed other than not having to manually submit it.
Yeah, you mentioned Google Discovery. That's a big one that I've stumbled on a couple of times, and the amount of traffic it drives before it goes away is just insane.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's hit or miss as far as that, but once you hit it right, it's a ton of traffic.
Yeah.
If you have your site monetized with display ads or something like that, hey, it's a home run.
Yeah, it tends to not last long, at least a couple of experiences I've had with it. But
yeah, but there's certain things you got to have in place to make sure that you're even eligible for it. I talk about that in the course and everything else, and that's part of what it's not necessarily my new strategy, but the way I'm kind of explaining things a little differently now that manual approval process isn't there. I put a little different spin on why we want to still be doing the same things.
It seemed like most of it was just good SEO, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Really
like
evergreen stuff,
Yeah, like it's packaged as a strategy for Google News or whatever, but it's just good SEO too.
Exactly. It's good. Yeah, it's good for Google and good for the users as well.
Yeah, there was and I won't give a lot of details, but there was another presentation that was kind of private that was at the event that we were at. They talked about some Google Maps stuff, and a lot of it seemed like basic SEO shit to me too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
Yeah,
it's really evergreen techniques, but you're applying it to a specific use case.
Yeah. Well, also, it's funny to me that people look at the stuff that they should be doing anyway as some sort of revelation.
Right. I know exactly.
Like before I ever knew what SEO was, like I knew that when I made a link in a blog post, because I was just writing to write back then, and I knew that linking, like putting whatever the thing I was linking to, the anchor text being about the thing I was linking to, just made sense. And that helped me get traffic back in the day before I had any clue what SEO was. So it's surprising to me that people treat the basics like it's some sort of new thing. But
hey, the foundation of what we're doing is common sense. It's just in short supply in the world nowadays.
That could be a whole stream on its own. All right, well, we only have a few minutes left. If there are any more questions for Brian, or again for me, I suppose you can drop those in the comments or in the chat or anything like that. But the site is called AuthAmp, and the site to pick up the training is AuthAmp. It's called Authority Amplifier Pro. I mean, if you've enjoyed this stream, I'm sure that you'll get a ton out of this. You probably aren't going to believe me if you're listening, but I'm actually going to pick this up afterwards. So a couple of people that work for me can do some of this too, to make our business better, because I never stop learning either. I learn as much from these streams, hopefully, as the people watching do as well. So now
keep doing them.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if anybody wanted to get, other than the course, like if they wanted to get in touch with you or anything like that, where would they do that?
Hit me up on Facebook. Just look me up on Facebook, Brian Winum, and I'm pretty open to just about anything. I have tons of people reaching out to me via Facebook Messenger, and I'm an open book. I'll share what I can to an extent, but I'm always up for a great conversation with people.
I always ask that question at the end of these streams, and the number of times people say that Facebook is the place to get a hold of them is always surprising to me, because it is for me too. That's the best way to get it. Like I'm at these events, sometimes they're like, do you have a card? I was like, no, it's not the 1960s.
Exactly.
Just find me on Facebook. I'll answer. But I guess there's like a world of people out there that still use Facebook only to connect to people they know, which just, I can't even like fathom at this point. So, all right. Basith says, thanks for sharing. Thank you, Basith. George says his own name. Thank you, George. David really seems like a great guy, just sharing knowledge and being friendly. Thank you, David. But what did you think about Brian?
Exactly. Couple of great guys.
Now, David himself is a great guy too. Has a really cool business he's doing. So, All right. I guess that is going to do it. Once more, let me put that on the screen so you have a chance to pick this up. It's authamp.com. It's what? It's like $1,000, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's very, very reasonable. You make that back in a month if you put it in the stuff into action. So, check it out and, find Brian on Facebook. Let me do a quick programming note, and I don't have it memorized. So I'm going to go find my list on who we have coming up in the future. You'd think I'd have this ready, but people ask me sometimes, how do you stay so organized? I'm like,
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Juggling things left and right in the background.
So next week, and I'm going to butcher his name, but on Tuesday, May 28th, I have Vebhav Sharda from autoblogging.ai is going to be on. He's going to talk to us about that. And then on the 30th, I have a newcomer in Akira, Koroshlova. She's going to talk to us about foreign SEO, and she's somebody that Mad Singer suggested that I have on. So I think she'll be great too. So
awesome.
So
love Mads, great guy.
Yeah, me too. He was on.
He recommends it's got to be a winner.
Yeah, he was on maybe a month ago as well. So. All right. So if you enjoyed this, please pick up Brian's course and do me a favor and click the subscribe button so you can be notified of when there's new videos and new live streams drop. I'm told that if I ask for this in a video, that people are more likely to do it. I've never seen anything that supports that in the numbers, but it's a pretty easy thing to do. And like I say, we have 2 great more streams coming up next week. And I want to thank everybody that took the time to watch today. There's a lot going on in the world. You have a lot of options and ways that you can spend your time. And you chose to spend an hour with us today. So that's something I will never not appreciate or never take for granted. So thank you for that. And last but not least, figure out what you want out of life and go out and get it, because you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the world. I'll see you next week. Peace.